That's a gay-ass podcast.
What? That's a gay-ass podcast. What? A really, really, really gay podcast that we call That's a Gay-Ass Podcast.
That's a gay-ass name for a gay-ass podcast.
Welcome back to That's a Gay-Ass Podcast, a podcast that asks, whose fault is it that you're gay? It is me, Eric Williams, and this week's category is gay-ass country music. Listen to the story of this week's guest. He signed with a huge label 10 years ago, opening for Ariana Grande, Meghan Trainor on tour. In this episode, he talks about being dropped by that label, and now 10 years later, he is releasing his most authentic, his gayest, most incroyable album yet, which also includes one of my gay-ass girlies who made me a faggotrini. Michelle Branch is on the album. It is called American Spirit. Y'all, the guest is Fancy Hagood, incredible country star from Nashville, Tennessee. We talk about being gay in the South. We talk about the character actor that Fancy wants to fook, and about finding chosen family, including Fancy's bestie, a one Miss Kacey Musgraves. I am so in love with this interview. I can't wait for you to hear it. But I just want to shout out everybody who messaged me last week about the interview with Emil Jameson, one of your favorite content creators. Y'all were thirsty for that, and I'm so glad. If you want more episodes like that, the Patreon has more gay-ass sex at patreon.com/gay-ass-podcast. And of course, if you want to watch this amazing interview with Fancy Hagood, head to the YouTube, and you'll find the gay-ass channel there. Enjoy this episode with Fancy Hagood. Fancy Hagood is on That's a Gay-Ass Podcast. Fancy, it is an honor to have a country music star on the pod. How is your gay ass doing on this gorgeous day?
My gay ass is tired as hell, but I'm so grateful to be here, to be honest.
Do you then want to make category is for today's episode just girlies twirling and whirling? Let's just lean in.
Okay, let's go.
So, speaking of leaning in, Fancy, you are a fellow middle America gay girly, as am I. You grew up in Arkansas. You live in Nashville. Give us the deeds. You're gay in Tennessee. What do we like about living in Nashville as a gay? What do we hate? What's the vibe, girl?
We have streets, okay?
Gay streets.
No, yeah, we have, our gays are out on the streets. No, there's a street ironically called Church Street, which has a lot of the gay bars and has had different bars throughout time there. There's two now, the main drag bar, which is called Play, which is, you know, the first gay bar I ever went to when I was, of course, old enough to go to bars. I never went there when I wasn't old enough.
And why would you?
But yeah, absolutely not. But a lot of iconic drag queens, famous drag queens have come from Play. Miss Brooklyn Heights, Miss Georges, I mean, the Princess. Lots of Woo Girls have come from Play Nashville. You just gave me a
flashback, actually, Fancy. I will get into this, but I was in Nashville for a while, a lot of years ago, and I saw a show there. A bunch of Woo Girls were there, and Trixie Mattel was out of drag just watching the show.
Okay,
I got a picture
we love
with her.
Trixie. We love Trixie. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty iconic. When I first went on tour for the first time, and I was like going to all these different cities, and I was going to different gay bars and seeing drag shows, I kept telling everyone I was with, I was like, you guys have to come to Nashville and you have to see Play Dance Bar's drag show, because it's a whole production, it's a whole thing. It's just, yeah, it's why I love drag. It's why I love Drag Race, is because of my experience watching these girls perform every weekend in Nashville at Play.
It's so cool to hear, and I also love how like every city has a different vibe when it comes to the gay life. Like, let's go into stereotypes. Feel free to cancel me. I need the press. So LA gays, of course, it's like it's giving lip injector, it's giving shallow. Like, that's the stereotype. I obviously have so many. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't like love the gay community, but that's stereotype. Nashville gay stereotype, is it orange tanning booth? Is it what's the stereotype of Nashville gay?
It's funny to say this because I wouldn't tell you that Nashville is that diverse of a city, but I think its drag scene is really diverse. There's a lot of different queens operating around town, and you know, it used to be just Play, and that's where you saw drag, but now drag is popping up everywhere. And it's thriving. It's such an art form, and there's so many different queens.
What about
performing
like beyond,
in different places?
What about beyond drag in terms of like just like the gay people? Is there a stereotype of those?
Well, no, I think we're just normal gays. You know what I would say? I think I'd be describing like any group of gays. But it's small town gay kind of. So it's like you get gossip queens. You have like you have the circuit queens. You have I think Pecker's just shut down. I don't know, but that was like the daddy bar. I mean, you have like the same things everyone else has. We're not. Nashville's like a small town in the sense of there's not that many of us here in comparison to like LA or New York, but it is like a big city. So you do have like different kinds of people and it's growing so fast. There's a lot of new things happening. So there's a lot of new people moving here and you're seeing that diversity in all things like drag and even country music. There's just a lot more people here doing what feels unconventional to Nashville.
And God bless that. I feel like there's always like, it's funny you say this. I was just in Austin, Texas recently, and I was blown away by how many tech Patagonia vest wearing bros were there. And I know that Austin was not always that, but it's become like incredibly like tech centric. Nashville, on the other hand, I know has like its history of the roots of country music, of the Grand Ole Opry, etc. But when did it become the bachelorette capital of the country? That's what I like. Do you just like walk down the street and then you see 25 girls all pedaling the same fucking giant boat on the street?
Yeah, you have the closer you get to downtown, the more you see that.
Yeah,
and they take over like pretty much every cool place in Nashville. Like 12 South was like an up and coming thing, and now it's pretty much Bachelorette Central, Broadway. I don't think a lot of locals party there, but if you go down there, it is nothing but bachelorettes. We call them Woo Girls.
Woo Girls.
Yeah,
because they're always going woo,
woo. Yeah, yep. They're all on a wagon where they're all pedaling and very drunk, and they are just having a good time. And I've been very judgmental of these women. I'll be really honest about that because it's annoying, but.
Because it's annoying.
Yeah. But I will say my friend this year for her birthday made us all get on one of the party buses where it's basically just an open air former school bus and you just drink and ride around downtown. And I was like eye roll about it, but then I got on it and I actually became a full blown, as I live and breathe, a woo girl.
Bless your woo girl heart.
The spirit just came over me.
Yeah,
what can you say?
What can you? It's very like when in Rome, when on the open air school bus.
Yes.
Do as the woo girls do. I also shade them. I think what I shade more than like the woo girls specifically is the movement and culture towards like we need to make sure my 35 closest friends fly across the country to wear the same brown boots on an open air bus, spend $5,000. Like my younger brother got married a year or two ago. They had a beautiful wedding. Their friends are all truly lovely. But like I was hearing about some of what the weddings they were going to and what their friends were doing. It has become an epidemic of branded clothing and like and then the woo girl boats and it's just become I don't know why I'm all of a sudden now ravaging against the wedding culture of the day, but like I feel like Nashville is the epicenter.
Honestly. It's here, and I don't know when it started. I honestly blame the show Nashville because I feel like Nashville was one of those towns. And again, as I tour across the country and go to these different places, I'll be like, oh, this is really cool and charming, this town. And then I'll all of a sudden have this like thought like, oh, this reminds me of old Nashville. And that's it. So it's not just like this cool, charming town. It's like actually has this like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Je ne sais quoi.
No, I'm like having a stroke. The word, it's like, it feels nostalgic. That's what I'm looking for.
And she found it, Fancy.
It takes me a minute, but I can land the plane usually. It feels nostalgic for like what Nashville felt like when I first moved here when I was 17 and like, falling in love with the city and stuff. But it's different with the way it's changing. There's also good things. I remember when I lived in LA and finally going to like nice restaurants for the first time, coming back to Nashville and eating at the places that I thought were like, 5 stars and being like, what is this? So now with all of this growth, all these people moving here, a lot of restaurants from other cities are popping up here, and a lot of chefs are creating like food stuff here. So it's a food town now, which is so nice. There's like stuff to do here now. There used to not be that much to do.
Okay. So we bring in the good with the bad. We bring with the Woo Girls comes the Michelin stars, huh?
Yeah, and sushi.
And sushi, because that city is what? Landlocked. Now, when it comes to you're talking about the restaurants, we're talking about the bachelorettes of it all. I need to ask about dating. Obviously, as a gay person in Nashville, the pool is smaller, but like what's your current status? What's the vibe of your dating life in Nashville?
Well, I will say I find dating in Nashville to be hard. I'm going to be really honest about that. It's a smaller queer community. You know, when you're on Scruff, when you're on all the apps, you're seeing all the same faces, and then you go out to these. You're seeing the same people that you've seen forever.
You're out.
So I think it's a little hard to date here. I'm really fortunate that I get to travel a lot with my job, and you know, I don't know if it's like this for everyone. My popularity level on those apps goes up or down depending on where I'm at geographically.
Interesting. Say more.
You know, yeah, like at a bear week in Provincetown, am I the belle of the ball? No. Did I think I was going to be? Absolutely.
Wait, twist.
Girl, I know. I registered more as a pilgrim up there. I was going to be the bachelorette, and I think they were looking for a more Tila Tequila style program.
Okay, you lost me on Tila Tequila. What are these bears in P-Town looking for?
I don't know. It was not me, though. I will tell you that.
Well, I think, you know, with all due to those bears, what are they doing? But then give me, okay, so P-Town Bear Week is, for whatever reason, not your town. Give me the fancy feast. Is it Cleveland? Where is she getting the love she deserves?
You know, Atlanta holds a special place in my heart.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the ATL, the Nene Leaks of it all.
I got gay married in Atlanta, and we did not even know that this was the case, but we chose a date that was Pride weekend. It was October 12th of 2019. And
get out of here with you didn't know.
Pitch. What, are you trying to confront me on my own gay ass podcast? I swear to Patty Lupone, we did not know. We like looked at the venues. You know what we really fucking did? It's like, if I can put my in-laws on blast, whom I love dearly, they're such good people, is that we had to worry about the fucking football schedule.
Oh, that's important down here.
Apparently. Someone told me that they have gone to weddings and there will be people with AirPods in listening to the game during the ceremony. I said, if I see a fucking AirPod at my wedding, it's either you're listening to Kesha or the AirPod's in the trash.
Yeah. Sports are a thing here. My ex was really into sports.
Which one?
And the only way.
Football?
Like
not which
football.
Ex, which sport? Okay.
I think, yeah, I was about to say there's only one. So, yeah, he was into football. I'm not into that whatsoever. But then again, you know, I'm into the Real Housewives. He wasn't into that. So
thank you.
To each their own. But like, I'm never sitting at a dinner table with my phone propped up watching the Real Housewives, although I would. But yeah, sports change
if you're
people.
Solo dining and the time is right, maybe I'll pull up in Orange County. But yeah, I'm usually not near earpiece like, what's Vicky Gunvalson saying this week?
Yeah, maybe if I was alone at a restaurant, I'd relive the Amsterdam dinner from the Beverly Hills Housewife.
Beast.
Yeah. No, it's different. Like I tried to think about what is the equivalent for me, like sports is for like dudes.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of is the Housewives, really.
Mine's
maybe
ice cream.
RuPaul's Drag Race. You're that passionate about ice cream?
Girl.
Like you have a team?
I'm Team B and J, babe. and I will fly out of town for Tillamook. Okay.
I love it.
Oh, I could talk. In fact, Matt gives me a hard time if ice cream ever comes up. He's like, yeah, there was a lot of ice cream talk. I haven't done it in a long time on the podcast because of him. But what I do need to do on this podcast, Fancy, is ask you the famous podcast question. Fancy Hagood, Nashville star. Whose fault is it that you're gay? Who do we blame, babe?
Honey, I have an Eras tour of people to blame for why I am gay. Okay.
An Eras tour. Take us through the set list.
I'll take you to the beginning. We're going to blame the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Bitch.
Jason, Billy, Zach, and don't even get me started about Tommy, okay? That was the origin of, I'm like, these men are everything. And then to find out.
Lycra.
Exactly. And to find out later in my actual, when I'm actually out of the closet that the Blue Power Ranger is actually gay, I'm like, coded, I knew it. Like, I literally, I'm like, I felt that homoerotic whatever's going on there. Like,
that's huge.
That's the origin for me. Then we're going to like step into David Hasselhoff slow-mo running on the beach. That was when I maybe knew that I was not into the same things as the other boys in the class.
Were you looking at the bouncing titties, the body hair, the thighs, the tummy? What were you looking at?
Yeah, that's a D, all of the above.
Sure. It's really that is D. Okay, go on.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're going to go into like my preteen years where Will Ferrell in Old School streaking was like my sexual awakening. I was like,
go streaking. I remember that.
Yeah, Will Ferrell will forever be my number one Hollywood man crush. Like, Superman who? I want Will Ferrell. You know what I mean? That guy's going to make
Cavill. You want the curly chest hair of Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I had to say Superman because I couldn't even remember that other guy's name because Will Ferrell is just supreme. He's kind, he's sweet, he's funny, he's handsome, he's tall. I mean,
you really are a trailblazer, which shout out to the amazing show that you host on Apple Music. But you really are a trailblazer because you're the first person on this podcast to name drop Will Ferrell as your celebrity fuck.
Let me tell you something. I will die on that hill that Will Ferrell is a sex icon. And I think he's, we're all looking, this is why we're all screwed, is because we're looking for the Henry Cavills of the world when really the Will Ferrells are gonna be who make us happy.
Oh my God, that is very well said. You know what I said to someone? True story. I was in Austin, Texas again, not to bring it up, and I was talking to this guy, very handsome, very hot guy. And we were talking about his dating woes, and similar to Nashville, we were talking about how in Austin he was having difficulties finding people. And the guys he was showing me that he was talking to were the Henry Cavills. They were just like so aesthetically pleasing, but he was telling me how they were nightmares for certain reasons. And I said to him, sir, you need to be the Henry of your relationship. You need to find, we'll say the Will Ferrell. I said, you need to find the nerdy queen who can appreciate your creativity, who can appreciate your freak flag, but like you need to go for the nice nerd or funny guy or what. I think you're right. I think a lot of us try to find the Henrys that are going to treat you like shit instead of the Wills who will make you laugh after they dick you down and then make you breakfast.
Exactly. And you know what? I don't mean to be hating on Superman as hard as I am.
Trust me, he's fine. You're not like punching down. He is fine.
Yeah.
What
I'm not
kind of lover do you think Will Ferrell is?
A good one, like an amazing one. He like makes you laugh. He makes you like, and like,
yeah.
I just feel like that kind of person would allow you to be whatever you needed to be in that situation to like feel the most comfortable, to feel the most seen, to feel the most loved.
Wow.
You can tell I've thought about this a lot, actually.
No, I can tell, but it's like actually hitting me because my fucked up horny brain goes to like, oh, what kind of fuck, what kind of cock, what kind of blah. But you're like, no, he actually treats me like a human. He looks into my eyes. He treats me with respect. We laugh. And that makes the intimacy, that makes the connection, that makes the loving so much better.
Yeah, I'm therapized, honey. Do I in my fantasy world, am I like Will Ferrell's rocking a beer can? Yes. But do I know that to be true? No. And if he didn't, would I care? Absolutely not.
And God bless. Everyone, we're putting a stamp on we don't care if Will Ferrell has a beer can or not. Put it in the Declaration of Independence. Put it in the Constitution. Will Ferrell shall have whatever size cock he has, and we will gag on it.
Yes,
Accept it.
we love Will
That
Ferrell.
too. Wow, your answers are so good. Do you, when you look back at your time living up in Arkansas, were you like watching Elf, the movie Elf, and being like, "Oh, fuck yeah"?
No, Elf. Yeah, well, I don't think he's unattractive enough. He's so handsome and everything. But old school is really where I was like, and in the movies I wasn't allowed to watch, and I'm like going to the video store and like putting the R-rated movie in the PG case at Blockbuster to like take it home and watch it when I'm not supposed to.
Contraband.
Yeah, I was a sneaky little fella.
Were you not allowed to watch
yeah,
because you were too young or because your family was religious?
we were religious.
There you go.
We were conservative.
That's a part of culture that I actually am not privy to, because my fucking Jewish parents, having no boundaries, are like, you want to watch Austin Powers and you're 11? Go for it.
No, it's funny because I had two older sisters, so a lot of things also came to me via them, like them watching stuff, and my parents were already asleep, and then I'm up watching it with them. Even though I probably wouldn't be allowed to watch it, I saw it because of my older sister. So shout out to them for making me the culture expert I am.
Can I ask you about the sister sitch? Because obviously the question of the podcast is tongue in cheek. We're all born queer. We did not choose. But do you think, because they say statistically that maybe having all sisters when you're a male identifier might speed up the gay process. Do you think having sisters either made you gayer or like did anything to your journey?
I was like thinking about it. I was surrounded by women the majority of my life. My dad and I are close. He traveled a lot for work. So a lot of the times it was me, my mom, and my sisters, my grandma. So, and then also at school, I just naturally got along. And actually that's not true. Like earlier, like in elementary and stuff like that, all of my best friends were guys. But as we were like growing up, it became really obvious that I was not like the rest of them.
Oh my God.
And
so exact same for me.
I'll never forget one time I was getting bullied on the playground. I'll never forget this. And I'll shout out his name, Harrison Kerr, wherever you are in Arkansas or beyond. Him and his friends were like bullying me on the playground. We're talking like fourth grade. And I remember getting like held down, and then he's like standing over me and he's like, "Why do you only play with girls?" And I'm like, why would I not? They are fabulous. Like they're talking about all the things I want to talk about. Like what would I do with y'all? This? Like
I'm
no.
picturing you being pinned down on the ground. You then take both your hands out. Why would I hang out with you? The girls play with Polly Pockets. We talk about the Blue Power Ranger.
Yep.
And they let me braid their hair. What am I going to do with you?
Exactly. What are we going to do? What are we going to talk about?
What was your bully's first name?
Harrison.
Well, Harrison, I hope you're listening, and I'm assuming that you are. And I want you to know, Harrison, that we all had a Harrison in our lives, and all you did was show us what we don't deserve, which is your fucking treatment. You should not care that we only had girlfriends. You should not care what we are doing with them. What you should care about is your own fucked up relationship with your own father, and why that you think you should treat people like they're pieces of shit because they're not like you.
Wow.
Thank you. That's so. It's. I also think what makes you such a vulnerable, sensitive, amazing person that obviously translates to your work as a performer and as a songwriter is like you took the lessons from the women around you. That was like, you are allowed to be vulnerable. You're allowed to show if you're feeling an emotion that is not positive or it's not anger. Like these are all things that the women treat us, which is your strength can lie in your vulnerability, which then can also make you feel more connected to the women's around us.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, and it also makes sense, like with music and stuff, when we think about queer people, especially gay men, and who they idolize as far as like gay icons, it's always women. And I understand that because for me, growing up, that it was the same thing for me. And it was always because they were speaking their truth and their story, which felt like the closest to mine. And it wasn't until, the last decade where we're having pop stars who are queer and who are openly gay and talking about it. And, we're seeing more and more people being able to share their story, which is like really exciting because I think we're going to see more male gay icons be embraced by male queer people. And like, I think that's a really special thing. I remember when I was like, when my first single, which is going to be 10 years in January, it'll be the 10-year anniversary of my first single, my top 40 hit, Goodbye, coming out. And I remember playing a bunch of prides. I played like LA Pride, and I played a bunch of different stuff like that. And I remember not feeling received from those audiences. And then, Fifth Harmony would jump on stage and these men are like losing their lives. Yeah. And it's like, and at first I was offended and it like really hurt me. But the more I think about it and like analyze it, the more I truly understand. We just haven't had people out in the forefront telling our story that we could relate to and see ourselves in. And sometimes when you're a male artist on stage, you ultimately become a mirror, and it's making them think about themselves and the things. So it's really this deep thing. But I would not be the man or the artist that I am today without the strong, powerful, amazing women that A, raised me, and B, inspired me.
It's so spot on. And I even, on an episode a couple weeks ago with Margaret Cho, we were talking about how especially gay men and queer people sometimes see other gay men, whether performers, comedians, singers, singer-songwriters, etc. And we sort of, because we were not given the visibility, we see it as either a threat, or we see how it does not match up with our own stories, and then we sort of subconsciously attack then, or do this comparison thing that makes us feel like they don't speak for me and they shouldn't be allowed to speak for themselves, when really the actuality of it is that we were raised to feel like we had to be on the defense when it came to how we're represented. And I think that you're right, that the more queer performers, creators we have, the more that's normalized and we can take our guard down. Because I'm just picturing now, like, Renee Rapp singing about girls that she wants to fuck. A of all, just I'm obsessed with her, but B of all, just picturing like if I was 13 and I was hearing her do that. God, I think back on my time growing up, and of course I'm a theater gay, so I was raised by like all of these Broadway girlies. You got your Patti LuPones, your Sutton Fosters, your Kelly O'Hara's, your Beth Levels. But like, can we, before we talk about the insanely incredible women you have worked with, written with, who were the pop girlies or country girlies that were your North Stars growing up?
Wow. I mean, Shania Twain is definitely up there. Just talk about people just like pushing the boundary, shattering the glass ceiling, doing something so different that it still stands today. Like, I just saw Shania in concert like last year, I want to say, and I'm sitting there being like, these songs still slap me the way they slapped me in 1999, honey. You know what I mean? It's like, it just still feels so, it's just its own thing. People are, back then, the argument in Nashville all the time is, well, that's not country. Everyone wants to like claim what country music is. And back then, Shania was so accepted across the board as just an icon, and the music was kind of like genre bending and all of this stuff. But for me, that's what I grew up. That's some of the music. Oh, and the Chicks. Oh my gosh, I love the Chicks and those early albums. Just like, oh, and then I'm Not Ready to Make Nice. My ninth grade heart was set on fire with that because I too was not ready to make nice. And it just, it's just exactly. And like the same way, I loved Beyonce and the Spice Girls and all this stuff. I started playing piano, and that's really the way I felt I could share my feelings. Like, I didn't feel like I could like articulate how I felt about stuff. And then as I was like learning how to play piano and putting my words down there, and all of my earliest songs, I found a notebook last time I was home of just all these little writings I had, and it's so angsty and embarrassing now, but I do just like want to hold that kid because he was just expressing his feelings. And I feel like I'm so grateful for artists like the Chicks and Shania and beyond. I mean, Sarah Evans is another one of my absolute favorites. Like I just lived for her album Restless, and I just got to do her podcast with her. And so it's like this full circle moment. And I'm just like, I'm just so grateful for artists who were able to like share their stories and speak that into song. And it just inspired me so much. And so much of like the album I'm making now and putting out is inspired by that.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like a letter to my younger self, and also a love letter to the music that like set my soul on fire. So there's so many other artists, but it's just like, yeah, those early, just like empowered female voices have always like spoken to me. So,
well, when you were talking about those performers, but also how they gave you the ability to channel your own emotions into writing in your journal and songwriting, like I picture that young kid. I picture who I was, feeling all of those big feelings. And I think this might be a dumb observation, but whatever. I think that that's probably why a lot of queer people go into performing, creating, writing, whatever it is in the creative field. In creating art, we do it because we need to channel our big feelings into something that is bigger than us, and because we weren't fucking allowed to in other ways. Like you grew up in Arkansas, I grew up in Missouri. It's like your angsty journals, we're lucky to fucking have you because that was how you survived.
Yeah, it's not shocking that a lot of queer people end up in fields of expression because we were repressed for so long and told we couldn't express ourselves, or if we did express how we felt, that it was wrong. So to be on stage, to be writing, to be creating, it kind of takes you to this other world of you're not having to like sit there in your actual self and speak on something. You can like make this and send it out. And it feels like a little bit of a safer place to be yourself. And that's why, you say you were a theater kid. I was too. I think that's why a lot of queer people find themselves in theater in junior high and high school. It's because they can be on stage and they can be something else and still be expressing themselves and be themselves to their fullest. And other people get lost in a character where they're up there expressing sometimes for the first time. So it's a cool thing, and it's a sad thing, and it's like it's a powerful thing. So I feel really cognizant of that when I'm writing music. I cannot write something that does not feel like me 100%, because I will never ever allow myself to not be 100% me. And if I'm putting feelings into a song, it's coming from me. And I just said when we announced this new album, it's like, I hope when you hear this album, you hear my heart, because this is 100% coming from me. And a lot of ways, I've been in Nashville for 16 years now. And I moved to Nashville when I was 17. So that's like really crazy to think. And I moved to Nashville to be a country artist. And I was told really quickly that would not happen for me because of, because I was gay or too effeminate or whatever. And so I had all these I went to LA, I did the pop thing, was successful at it too, but it just didn't feel like me. I always felt like I was being someone else. And I felt like that kid on a theater stage again, where I was having to play a role to be to do what I think that I love. But it's like, I'm a songwriter. I like to tell stories, and I'm a storyteller.
Isn't it fucked up that you had already had to do the inner work of like, okay, making the big move and then putting your work out there, your music, and then all of a sudden the industry was trying to tell you to do something that you were not after you did all that work to be your authentic self. And so then you have to then work through, you want to be, of course, yes-anding the industry. And then it gets you to this point now where it's like, okay, you've realized that part of your journey was not authentic to you, but does it feel even sweeter now? Because your album, I just want to butter your biscuit quickly. Very genuinely, your music is so great. And the fact October 25th is when I see it's coming out, American Spirit. There's to look forward to an album that is so authentically you after you've had this long journey. I hope it feels like you can celebrate that journey, even though it's been such a roller coaster?
Yeah, I am therapized enough now to look back on all of the things I did. And there's a couple of songs on this record that are like specifically a letter to my younger self, multiple versions. The last track is called Fly Away. And the first lyric, it says, "You were scared as hell to take the highway because you barely knew how to drive." And that's the truth. But you know, I used to look back on all these versions of myself and like have a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism. But sitting in the seat that I sit now, getting to make the music I'm getting to make, I celebrate that 17-year-old version of myself because he was bold enough. And then I think about the 23-year-old who felt rejected by a city he dreamed of moving to and had all these big plans. So he moves to an even bigger city with even bigger plans. I mean, I did some crazy things, and it's like hard to think that, like, you know, one day you're sitting in a studio with like one of the world's biggest producers who's telling you you're not an artist, you need to be a songwriter, you'll get hits, and then you can just like go do whatever you want, like, but you're not going to get a record deal. To getting the big manager, getting the record deal, getting the top 40 hit, touring in arenas, doing all of that. Did I feel like my authentic self? Absolutely not. Was I playing a role? Absolutely. But did that 23-year-old have the guts to show up and say, yes, I am enough? Yes, he did. So and then he loses all those deals and all of that crumbles.
Well, and tell the listeners too, like who were the artists that you were doing these arena tours with? Who were you opening for?
I opened for Ariana Grande and Meghan Trainor. I had a song with Ariana and Meghan called Boys Like You. And it would have been a historic song had it gone to radio. Because I'm queer, it would not go to radio. I would have been one of the first male voices singing about a male. My label did not want it to go to radio. It had already outstreamed my top 40 hit online. It was considered a viral success.
Yeah.
But that came out in November. I lost my record deal in January, and it is the biggest blessing that ever happened to me. And it was hard to see then, but I think about the 24-year-old who moved back to Nashville and had to start over. I went from being on The Tonight Show and touring in arenas with Ariana to checking IDs at a bar and really just doing my grind all over and starting over from the ground up. And I learned a lot in that era of my life. And there's a lot of people, it's easy to like point and be like, the industry fucked me over and it's this. I think truly there was a lot of well-intentioned people surrounding me that I truly care about. And looking back in those times, I'm like, man, I'm lucky I had those people. But, you know, the industry is the industry. So it's just kind of like, it's an uphill battle for anyone. Moving back to Nashville, starting over with a blank slate was the best thing I could have ever done for myself, even though I didn't know it then. Putting out my debut album in 2021 in the pandemic because gays can do hard things. And that was called Southern Curiosity. And I became so used to always having to start over that I thought when I finished Southern Curiosity that I needed to do something new, shift gears, change. And my manager, who is my best friend, her name is Natalie, and she's actually been my longest acting manager. And I've, not to brag, I'm someone who's been signed and dropped by a lot of different management teams, but her and I had this honest conversation because I'd put out a couple of pop tracks, one with Kacey Musgraves, right after Southern Curiosity. And Natalie was kind of like, I feel like we have all this momentum with your first album. And I don't understand why you're trying to like shift. And I really sat with that because, you know, I was starting to make this new album that was more pop focused and like, I was pivoting again, and I realized that the whole name to my game has always been start over, and it's always had to be out of necessity.
Yeah.
And
well, it's the idea of
I
pivoting
realized
in a way too. It's you're taking. I think that's inspiring to me and probably a lot of people listening that it is okay to pivot. It is okay to start over. It is okay to take stock in what is not working for you or feeling authentic, and then go from there.
Yeah, but I do think that needs to come from within. That feeling should be coming from your voice.
And no one else. I agree.
I need to start over. This isn't working. You know, when it's outside voices telling you, you're not going to get a record deal, you can't be in country music, you can't, that stuff is not,
It's not your voice.
that doesn't matter. So when I finally had that epiphany and that realization that, oh my gosh, I don't have to start over, I'm building. And Southern Curiosity feels like a beautiful foundation. And I feel like this new album, my sophomore album, I feel so grateful that I never put out a body of work in those, that first era, the whole Who is Fancy era. I really am so glad that only 2 songs came out. And people didn't know what I do next. And a lot of people thought I would just be that one-hit wonder. And, as far as I know, I might be a one-hit wonder as far as the Billboard charts go. But my mission has changed. My mission is different. And the charts don't matter to me. Numbers don't matter to me. Me being myself, me showing up in my art as myself entirely is my goal, and it's my mission, because I'm doing this for the younger Fancy. I'm doing this for the kids growing up in Missouri. I'm doing it for the kids growing up in Arkansas who are being told their place. No one decides that except for them, and I hope that my journey and my music can inspire people to dream big and to be big and to show up as themselves in every facet of their life.
Fancy.
And I feel so lucky to be like putting out my sophomore album as an independent artist. I'm doing it my way. Not to be all Frank Sinatra on you, but like this is the dream.
Yeah.
I used to think the dream was the record deal, the big manager, the arena tours, all this stuff, and it's like, scratch that. I've experienced it. It did absolutely nothing for my spirit. And now here I am, surrounded by a team of people who work so diligently to make my dreams a reality, and it's so beautiful, and I get emotional about it all the time. But they're not just people who work in the industry. They're people that I would break bread with. They're people that I would sit at a bar and drink till 3 a.m. and talk and share stories and share life. Those are the people working on my team now, and it feels drastically different.
I have myself encountered being in LA and starting to build the projects I've been working on, and all of a sudden seeing how important it is to be surrounded by people that you genuinely feel safe with, who have your best interests at mind, who are not using any part of your identity or your journey for just purely their game, but it has to be this like collaborative for the greater good. And I'm so inspired by what you're saying about, it's like a lot of people who like they achieve their dreams and then they feel empty, and then they wonder why they feel empty. It's like you're kind of speaking from that perspective. But I also think it's so incredible the people that you are surrounded by. I mean, the fact that you can just say that you've worked with Kacey Musgraves and you're friends with her, like when I discovered her a little late in the game, I was blown away, and now I'm obsessed. She to me is like kind of what you were saying with Shania Twain, I think, is like that beautiful crossover of somewhat of the country persona, but also I cannot say enough about what Kacey Musgraves' music has done to my soul. And well, not only Kacey, you've written a song called Change with Christina Aguilera. You've worked with, obviously, you said Meghan Trainor, Ariana Grande, Little Big Town. I mean, what's it like moving through the world, let's say with Kacey Musgraves as a friend and a collaborator? Has she taught you anything about her rise and how she remains grounded? What's it like to move through the world with these people that have such beautiful souls, but also really big careers?
I've learned so much from Kacey, and I'm so grateful for that friendship. And, I think, when you're listing all these people I've worked with, like Ariana and Christina and all these, I like got these experiences that were so cool and so amazing. And everyone's always been so lovely to me. I've never had like a negative experience. Yeah. Kacey's like, that's my girl. And we're in like this amazing friendship community. We share a community of friends. And I think it's really easy for people to get lost in the sauce on she's this big star, and that's probably what connects us. And that's really not it. It's like the small minutia of life that makes all of us close, because we all kind of do the same thing. And it's like, it would be so easy, the comparison game and all the different things. But, I'm lucky that a lot of my friends here in Nashville have been my friends for a long time, before the fame, before all the different stuff. Yeah. So there's like this realness to those friendships that I think it's like that can get lost on like Instagram and on Wikipedia pages. But I'm inspired by Kacey because, like I was talking about earlier, showing up as yourself. Kacey is Kacey anywhere and everywhere she goes. She's not going to, she doesn't change for anyone. And that's for better or for worse. And that really inspires me because I think I have felt like I have had to change so many times in this industry to fit a mold, where I feel like I watch Kacey so beautifully show up as herself all the time. And it's like she can't help it. She is just who she is. And that's contagious. And I just, me and my friends talk about all the time, we're all characters. We're surrounded by characters. Like, it's just kind of, there's never a dull moment. I mean, it's just a really rich community that I wish everyone could have. And when I say rich, I'm not talking about money. I mean, Kacey's rich. That's the truth. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like soul, spirit rich. Of course.
You know? Well,
and there's a song on my album. It's called Soulmates, and it's about my friendship group, Kacey included, my friend Lisa, Natalie, one of my best friends Lucy, John and TJ from Brothers Osborne. My friend Elise. I mean, I'm just so lucky to be surrounded by this beautiful ass community that has lifted me up so many times. They were there before I got my record deals. They were there when I got dropped from my record deals. They were there when I moved back to Nashville and had to work at a bar. When I lost everything in a tornado in 2020, you know, these people lifted me up. They've been there for me so many times. And so it's really cool. I have a song on my album called Soulmates. Because I wanted to have a song on the record that's just a outright love letter to my friends and my community.
Fucking wait for this album, Fancy.
And I got to write that with an artist named Caitlin Smith, who's incredible, but also Mary Steenburgen, who's an actress who was in the movie Elf, which we talked about earlier. Me and Mary and Caitlin wrote that. Yeah.
Wait.
We all wrote that together.
You wrote with Mary?
Mary's a songwriter.
Bitch, look at me standing character actresses and not knowing that Mary Steenburgen is a writer.
Yes, she's amazing. And we were in the room together that day, and me, her, and Caitlin were just talking about all the things going on in life. And I just went through a pretty bad breakup earlier this year, and my friends are who got me through that. I am nothing without my community. And so we decided to that's right. And that's we wrote a song it's called Soulmates, and it's just about the whole hook is soulmates aren't just lovers, friends like sisters, friends like brothers. So Kacey's definitely a part of that. There's a lot of people that are a part of that, and I feel really blessed to have that.
It's amazing. You know who else is a part of your album? Just a quick shout out is to Michelle Branch, who is one of the other guest vocals on the album. And she was another big person for my gayness growing up.
Mine too.
Ooh, Michelle fucking Branch. Shout out.
Listen, of all the collaborations I've had and gotten to do, this one is the most full circle. And I'll tell you why. Because I grew up in Bentonville, Arkansas, where Walmart was started.
Shout out.
And shout out to Walmart. Please sponsor me. Sell my music. But my dad worked for Walmart pretty much the entirety of my upbringing. And they would have a shareholders meeting in Fayetteville, Arkansas at the arena and around. So it's like all these people from all over the world, like that work for Walmart, come to Fayetteville. And Walmart brings in like these giant celebrities to do shows. Kacey's did one just recently, but back in the day, that's where I saw Beyonce. That's where I saw Carrie Underwood. That's where I saw Queen Latifah. I'm like, there was just like all these different things. But Michelle Branch had a show in a parking lot in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and my like fifth grade ass was there.
Bitch. And
she's just on stage. It was just her sitting on a stool playing her guitar and like singing these songs.
Breathe.
Exactly. And it's just like her singing. And I just remember being so set on fire by that. And, you know, she lives in Nashville. I live here. We have all these mutual friends. We've met in passing. I've been able to like tell her that story before of like,
oh my God,
you don't understand. Like I saw you, and, you know, she's always so like kind and nice about it. But just this past summer, I was on tour in Charleston, where I think she also lives, and her and her husband show up to my show in Charleston, and it's just me and my guitar on stage. And like, I just like sometimes these people, these like legends, these icons just like shock me, because it's like, then I'm like, my like non-glamorous ass is like leaving the stage where I'm playing by myself to like going to sit at my merch table by myself, selling my own merch, doing the whole thing. And Michelle's like walking up, like offering to get me a drink, like being so kind. And then we're like talking about the set. She's being so complimentary. And then I just blurted out. I was like, will you sing on my song? And she was like, I'd love to. And that's how it has all kind of happened. And she's been so gracious and so kind and amazing. And that song in particular on the album, I can't wait for it to come out because it means so much to me. I wrote that song from such a hopeless place. It was the night I found out just shit had completely hit the fan in my relationship, in my life. And I just felt lost, and I felt like the burden of anxiety for the first time. And I thought I was going to become like Olivia Rodrigo or Taylor Swift when I started writing that night, because that, I'm 33 years old and I still do it. If I don't know how to express myself, I grab my guitar or I go to my piano and I just start writing.
Teardrops on your guitar even.
Listen, so I like usually, sometimes, especially in the state I was in, I just kind of have my voice notes going because I may or may not come back to something, or, I just don't know really what's coming out. I'm just like being a psycho and putting all this, throwing spaghetti at the wall. Well, the next day I went back to listen through, and there was a lyric in it. All I said in it was, "Isn't that life? Nothing's perfect." And that just like really spoke to me, and it made me feel like, you know what? I've overcome so much in my life. This is just another moment. This is just a small moment that feels so big right now. But with time and all this other stuff, this would just be another life lesson. And it really, really taught me something. So this song came out of that. And now that Michelle's on it, there's just so much that just feels serendipitous and full circle about this record. I've been talking about this in press, that this album for me, it feels like a return to my original dream of moving to Nashville and being the country artist I want to be, and being the songwriter and the storyteller I want to be. And then to have these artists like Michelle and the Watkins Family Hour, who are also in my favorite band of all time, Nickel Creek. It's like to have these musical titans say yes and like, inadvertently be like, we see you. It makes me feel like I'm on the right path.
Yes.
Maybe for the first time in my entire career.
I cannot tell you how inspiring it is. And the fact that these musicians and writers and this community is lifting you up, it's only a sign of they are co-signing, advocating, and yes-anding what your mission is. And that is the biggest compliment. And I'm so unbelievably excited for you. And I have to say, speaking of powerful women, I have to ask you, Sally, the final question for this podcast.
Oh, no. I could do this for days.
Fancy, this is going to be the first of many. We're bringing you back, bitch. We're bringing you back.
Awesome.
The final podcast question is, if the world was ending, you could only save one character actress, who would you save?
I could only save one?
Yeah, babe.
Oh.
And let's say Mary's on your back, and so you don't have to save her.
Okay. I feel like, wow, this is really hard for me. I can only save one.
Yeah, babe.
And when you say character actress,
I say it's a woman over 40 who's worn one wig once. People who listen tell me that might be too broad. However, to me, it's just a powerful woman who transcends. You can see her personality either in every single role or she disappears in every single role. That's why Nicole Kidman can be considered a character actress. That's why, of course, Meryl Streep is on the opposite side. She disappears while you still have a bit of a Merylism. So,
then the person that immediately came to my mind does fit, and I think it's Viola Davis.
Oh, yeah. Delicious answer and an absolute A+ response. She deserves. Viola Davis is a character actress that deserves.
Oh my God. Yes. She is hands down someone, that question when it's like, who would you have dinner with? She is at that table, hands down. I love her. How to Get Away with Murder is just one of my favorite. Annalise Keating is just one of my favorite versions of just her range of acting. It's just so good. And, you know, she's accomplished so much. She's in so much. And I think she is, you say Meryl Streep. And I think those two names probably go hand in hand and are arguably, I think, equally
Viola
successful.
will go down in history as one of the most strong, powerful, incredible actors. I mean, talk about like strength versus vulnerability. She is an unbelievable performer who happens to have a huge Instagram following ? About memes.
Well, that's what I was about to say, is because she is also, I feel like that's where you can see her personality. It comes out on Instagram and the things I'm like, I want to have dinner with her.
You will.
I want to know.
One day you will, Fancy. One day you will have dinner with Viola Davis, and I'm going to manifest that in this gay-ass pod. And since we have to sadly end, let's just have you tell the girlies where to follow you. Obviously, they're going to be listening to American Spirit coming out on October 25th, but where can they find it and where can they follow you, Fancy?
You guys can follow me, Fancy Hagood, on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, the TikTok. I'm an elder millennial, so I'm not the greatest at TikTok, but we there. And please, please, please go listen to American Spirit wherever you listen to music on October 25th.
Bitch, they are going to. I am so obsessed with you. I'm so grateful you came on this podcast. And y'all, stay gay.
Oh, yes. Thank you for having me.
Mwah. Thanks for listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode with Fancy Hagood, tag us on Instagram. The handles are in the description. And of course, if you want to watch the episode, go to YouTube. The Gay Ass Podcast full video episodes are there, including Fancy Hagood's and last week's very horny episode with Emil Jameson. If you enjoy, leave a review letting us know what you thought. And of course, we'll be back next week with another gorgeous gay ass guest. See you, beach. I love ya. You've been listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast, hosted by me, Eric Williams. If you want to see and hear more, make sure you're subscribed to us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or Patreon at Gay Ass Podcast. That's a Gay Ass Podcast is executive produced by Eric Williams and produced by Nathanael McClure. We'll see you next week.